Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Penny Lane Podcast with Boba. This episode is brought to you by Pennies Going in Raw and Last Bottle Wine.
The stock market is hotter than ever right now, and traders are taking advantage. But what does that mean for the people who still haven't started trading? The market can be a little intimidating at first, but you don't have to be alone in the learning experience. We at the Pennies Going in Raw podcast are here to help you. I'm Dan, and with my co-host Hugh Henney, we make the stock market a fun but informative experience for our listeners. We offer knowledge for all levels of traders, from beginners to those who do it full time. On PGIR, we discuss up-to-date news about the stock market and interview other traders who all started out just like us and made it big. You'll hear from Hugh and other multi-millionaire traders, founders and CEOs of companies, FinTwit superstars, and even professional athletes. Have you ever thought about investing your hard-earned cash but don't know where to start? Do you have money just sitting in your savings account collecting dust? We were all there once too. Listen to Pennies Going in Raw on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, Boba. Welcome to the Penny Lane Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Long time coming.
Long time coming. We were supposed to do this a long time ago, and I'm glad we are finally able to do it. I'm so glad to have you on.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to be here.
Cool. So, I'd love to just start, going through how you got into trading and your journey up until now.
Yeah, so I guess my first exposure to the market was back in 2016 when I graduated from college. I was still living at home, and I was making relatively decent money for what I've seen in my life, and I had no expenses.
Wait, with trading?
No, with my
or
job.
With
Yeah,
job?
So right out of school, I was making.
What was your
I'm a
job?
pharmacist, so I was making six figures at 25 years old. And I had no expenses, so the money was just kind of racking up and sitting there. I was like, I need to do something with it. Unfortunately, I wasn't smart enough to pay my loans off at the time, so that happened. So I just, found some robo advisors, the ones that invest automatically for you. So I just kind of tossed all my money into there, and it was fine, generating 7 to 12% returns every year, which was good enough for me at the point. And then on my own, I was just kind of hoarding, Apple, Microsoft, Tesla stocks, because I knew, in 60 years those things will never go away. So good idea to have those kind of companies in your portfolio. Come 2020, in January, my broker that I was using, it's Canada-based. They're called Wealthsimple, and they were shutting down their U.S. operations. They were like, hey, we're going to be selling all of your assets to a U.S.-based company because we're shutting down our U.S. operations. They'll take over. And I wasn't a huge fan of that company, so I just liquidated my assets in January 2020, kind of at a really good time, because 3 months later you had the pandemic crash. So I figured I'd do my research and find another broker and use them. Then I had my kid 3 months later in that March of 2020, and I got a new job while I was on leave with my kid too. So my money was just sitting there in my bank account cash after I liquidated. And you see a huge drop. I'm like, holy crap, a good thing I sold out, because all of my Apple, Microsoft, Tesla came down half the price. Dip comes in
so
March.
That's a great opportunity there.
Yeah, exactly. And, I was lucky enough to know enough to capitalize on that. So I threw maybe 75% of my account back into the market, only into those blue chip stocks that I knew would have value later on. I had some of my friends come at me.
Like what?
So
what kind of?
I would say 60% of my portfolio was Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Google, and then there were a couple smaller bio names, not smaller but less expensive, like Pfizer. Novavax was one of them, and I didn't get into Moderna until the end of the year. So at the same time, I had some of my friends coming at me. I think Mark was the big one back then. They were doing the thermal temperature, thermal thermometers, the heat thermometers they were doing. So my friends were like, oh, hey, it's 30 cents, 40 cents. It's going to go to $1 next month. Buy it now. Everyone on Twitter is talking about it. I didn't know anything about FinTwit back then, but I was like, all right, cool. Let me throw some cash at it, play around with it, see what happens. And in doing that, I lost 25% of everything I started with. It was a huge hit. And just emotionally, I was like, wow, I just lost a year's worth of salary doing this. So it was considerable. And, the more I got into doing that, the more addicting it became. I've never like gambled before, so this was pretty much my kind of gambling. And so I started throwing money at penny stocks, and over time I just kept losing money. I found Zach Morris. I joined Atlas,
Sure.
And great education there. Everything was. I honestly don't know how people make money in those places, but good for them.
I mean, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I was also in Atlas
sure.
and had to leave because I just kept losing. Losing.
Seems like a rite of passage at this point. So I was in everybody's Discord. Sapphire, Prop Trades Discord. You got Mini Trades Discord. Several of them. So I kept on losing money. Made some money, lost some money, whatever. But I was lucky enough that, I had that stable nest egg where 75% of my money was still sitting there. From the dip, I 10, 12x that account, just sitting there, which was nice.
Amazing.
So I would say that, I'm a good investor. I'm just not a good trader, which is why I'm so happy that, I found Brad just randomly. He was one of the first people I followed on Twitter. And then just randomly, I was like, he's been pretty quiet lately. Let me go search him up, see what he's up to. And just so happened to be like a couple weeks after he had started the Discord, I saw Callum and you on his page, and I was like, all right, let me join. I fangirled over you being there and talking to you for the first couple weeks.
Wait, me?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember or not, but I think me and someone else knew it. Might have been Gusto. We were just like, holy shit, Blayne's here. Because I found your podcast. I found your podcast like a month before I joined Brad's room. And I was like, this is awesome.
Oh, that's so flattering.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah. So it was pretty funny. But through that, we've created a nice family in MTA. Great, amazing, low-key traders who were in there with years and depth of knowledge that you won't find anywhere else. And I have to say, these past less than a year, my trading has gone from 0 to 100 real quick. I feel like that's the story for a lot of people in there. They're just learning at an exponential rate and just changing their lives day after day. So that's where we are now. Day trading is still a little bit of a struggle, but swing trading has gotten exponentially better. It's nice.
Okay, so was there ever a moment where you went from with your day trading or short-term trading where you went from lights off to lights on? Do you remember when everything kind of was clear to you? Honestly,
I don't feel like I've had that moment yet. It just feels like there's a dimmer and the lights are slowly turning on.
Nice.
Because, every day we have, Callum and Voice making sales, Berkey, and even people who aren't World members, like Snacks and other guys, Trade and Fade. People have knowledge that they're just, they'll just be talking about their tickers that they're trading, and you'll just pick things up here and there from everybody. So it's kind of just taking all the information, soaking it up, applying it to what I'm doing. And slowly it's getting better. I'm not super into day trading just because I need to figure out a strategy that works for me, honestly, because I feel like I'm just hit with so many things in that room. But yeah, being in the swing room with, Broda and a few other people who we all kind of trade like Broda does now, he's taught us from the top down, just his strategies, his scanners, everything like that. So that room is pretty consistent in what we're looking at on a day-to-day basis. So on that end, I feel like lights have turned on there. But Broda is just too smart, and he keeps introducing new things to us that, every new concept he turns on, it's just lights off again. So I got to learn all over again. So, but it's nice. I don't mind learning.
Do you know what this Wyckoff thing is?
Over my head.
Me too. And people are using it now. Broda brought it in.
It seems like that's the holy grail.
And now people are using it, and I'm like,
yeah,
Wyckoff.
I'm like, how do you see that on a chart? Because it's just a line chart, and I'm like, how are you guys seeing this? I don't understand it, but it makes me feel better when Brad and Walrus also don't know what it is. I'm like, all right, if you guys don't know what it is, I'll be okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw you a very big compliment. There's something about your investing style with the long-term companies and the blue chips that reminds me of Stryker.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's kind of his style.
Yeah. And I love Stryker, one of my favorite people.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's a smart. I just love him. It's a very, very smart way to trade.
Yeah, and I think he preaches, the way to grow your wealth is just with these boring stocks, boring funds, and that's the way you got to do it. Trading is fun, but if you really want to get wealthy in the long term, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. I also have been I've interviewed and then I have a mentor relationship with, and then he just came back on the podcast, the Wolf of Weed Street. Mm-hmm. He's a pretty famous FinTwit trader. And his strategy for long-term growth makes the most sense to me out of anyone. It's day trade in your account. At the end of the week, take out your profits, and then 50% of those profits go into blue chip stocks. 25% goes to increase your buying power, and then another 25% goes into just paying yourself in taxes.
That's pretty smart.
Things like that. Isn't it smart? Yeah. I also interviewed Rhino Corn, who's she's sort of a trader like you and me, but she's like further down the line. And she says that putting that money into the blue chip stocks bulletproofs you. She kept using that term, bulletproofs you. I have a few accounts. I have like a swing account, a long-term account, a YOLO account with like $1,000, and then I have my day trading account. And the bulk of my money is in the day trading account, but I'm trying to work toward building that up enough to put it all in the long term. So congratulations for already having that set.
Yeah, it was just a lot of it was just like not knowing what to do in the market. Like everyone knows all the blue chip companies, and that stuff that you use every day. That was kind of my strategy. It was like, these are the things I use. I have an iPhone, I have a computer, this and that. So let me just buy those things that everyone else is using. So it's not going anywhere.
Is there a blue chip company that's not an Apple or a Google or a Tesla that you have found that you really, really like? Like sort of a more under the radar?
Yeah, I don't know if it's under the radar, but I really like Pfizer. And I know, everyone kind of hates on the bios, but I think Pfizer is obviously a very stable company. They're probably the biggest one out there. And they are definitely not going anywhere, even though I think, Novavax won the U.S. government's bid for the COVID vaccine. Look where they are now. They're the ones who never put one out yet. And I think just last week, first week of February, they finally submitted their paperwork to the FDA in America for the vaccine. So it's like, why did that take so long when you have 5 other companies who already put their vaccines out? So I think Pfizer is one of them that I love. They have a high dividend yield as well, which I'm also getting into, dividend growth, investing, stuff like that. So that's my favorite one.
Cool. Pfizer's great for trading options too. Yeah. That's the only way I've traded it, but cool. Okay, so you mostly hang out now in the swing room, and then do you specialize in bio stocks?
I think just because of my background, I know a lot about them. I know the regulatory process they go through. I'm comfortable reading and analyzing the data that comes out when no one else really does. I feel like people misinterpret headlines a lot of the time. But sometimes with small caps, especially, you find yourself in a market where, regardless of the headline, how it sounds, it could still go up, So I wouldn't say I specialize in it, but that's been heavily what I trade in the last 18 months or so. It's gone both good and bad. I've lost a lot of money. I've made a lot of money off of them. So it really is all about timing. First I wasn't, I would play through data readouts. I would play through earnings. And now I learned, you play into those things. You don't hold anything for those. regardless of if you're expecting good data or good earnings. That's never going to be a guarantee. So yeah, I would say like 70% of what I trade are bios, or at least it was up till the last couple months when everything went down.
Yeah. So Broda swings pennies, right?
Broda swings
or small caps.
Whatever chart looks good. Yeah.
Well, would he swing? Does he swing any large caps?
No, I would say small and mid caps. Like he'll trade a few more expensive things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know anything about the swing market at all. I strictly day trade. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of what you're looking for as far as like the long-term chart? Are you looking at the daily? Are you looking for something super beat down?
Yeah. So that's a good question, actually, especially because for the last few months we've been hearing the swing market is dead, swing market's gone, the scalping market. I don't know if you saw my post yesterday or not, but in the last 2 months, I 70% of my swing account.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so
nice.
And that kind of came from, realizing that fundamentals don't work right now. You really shouldn't be swinging anything for a fundamental reason unless the chart looks good. So what I learned from Broda is to swing the chart, which is something that I'd never heard before. And it's just day trading it on a larger time frame. When you day trade, you don't really care too much about the fundamentals unless it's a news piece. But if there's momentum on the stock, you're going to trade it. So same thing, if there's momentum on a larger time frame, a daily or a weekly or a 4-hour, you can swing that stock. And, if the volume profile looks good, the chart looks fine, candles are lining up with the volume, that in theory should play out over a few days, which is easier for people who are in our swing classroom who, have full-time jobs or they're busy with other things. Chart out your entry point, chart your risk levels, and then just kind of play off of those so that you're not sitting at the screen all day. And that's where you kind of get those larger moves over a few days that, go 50 to 100% over the course of 7 to 10 days or so. And you just kind of let it ride. So I think that's where the swing market is right now. It's a lot about swinging charts, not really about swinging fundamentals. I think a lot of the biotech companies that we used to swing are now sub like $1, sub 50 cents. We see a lot of things in the 20s and 30 cents that are now just kind of getting hit. So even if you can find some of those like 20-cent stocks that are getting like loads lately, a few days later, those will also go like 30, 40%, which is kind of nice. It's just kind of finding those on the chart.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're playing the chart, not the fundamentals. Right. So when you started trading, you were doing more like DD on bio stocks. Yeah. Is that true or no?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was all about,
you've had to pivot.
Yeah, I was all about finding, the catalyst dates, finding out which companies look good for like buyouts or whatever. And that stopped working at a certain point. I think over the summer, me and Booch were swinging a couple bio companies that ended up putting out like good data, and they just like gapped down the next morning, and we both like lost 40, 50% on a couple of tickers. And that's when we kind of realized, okay, this isn't working anymore. Like we need to dial it back and find out the strategy that's going to start working. And then that kind of what circled around to, Broda's like stop swinging fundamentals, stop holding through data, stop holding through earnings, start playing the chart itself. I don't know, he has so much wisdom.
Do you want to give a shout out to Booch, our boy Booch,
number one
fangirl of the Penny Lane
Booch
Pod?
is the epitome of everything that you need in a human being, honestly. In a hype man.
Love Booch.
He is a special guy.
Totally. Love Booch. Booch, if you're listening, I'm going to give you a big compliment, which is way to pivot, man. I mean, that guy is on the hunt for success, and he's so nimble.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, I mean, I have a ton of respect for Booch and his ability to pivot. He's like water.
Absolutely.
He's just...
Yeah, and he's learned so many concepts, just in the past like 4 or 5 months. He stopped kind of swinging small caps, just went over to large caps, options, futures, And he's having success with all of that. Awesome.
Booch, just for you, I want to say that perhaps the trick is to surrender to the flow. Okay.
Irrational exuberance? When it comes to killer wine at drastically low prices, 30 to 70% off retail, and free shipping, we live for that here at Last Bottle Wines. Whether you went long or short on GameStop, you'll need a glass of something terrifically tasty, and we've got the goods. Last Bottle is a daily wine site based in Napa, California. One wine every day at Black Swan event prices, usually 30 to 70% off, until poof, it's gone. Whether you're a pound-the-table type, think ultra-crisp, quaffable Sauvignon Blanc, or a dividend aristocrat, Burgundy, or Napa Cab, there simply is no better place to buy wine on the web. And they always have free shipping. Last Bottle has a deal just for Penny Lane listeners. Use promo code PENNY, that's PENNY, to save 10% off your next order with Last Bottle. The code is good for one order and one order only, and it expires March 11th, 2022. So head over to lastbottlewines.com today. That's lastbottlewines.com.
I've really seen that in so many of our MTA founders or, freshman class of MTA. Watching people come in and develop as traders has been amazing to watch. Like I've enjoyed watching you. I had a conversation with Brad yesterday just about pivoting and evolving and taking what the market gives you. Walrus has done that so much. Our 1 year ago, well, no, it hasn't been a year since MTA started. It's been about 8 months. We all traded differently.
Yeah, and Brad and Walrus were guys who were like, we're never going to trade options and futures. And now look at them. They're in large caps up room, futures room. Taking them
Brad yesterday was like, I'm trading SPY. I was like,
yeah, since when?
But have you traded options at all?
I have not. I've never. I did it one time, like in 2019. I did not know what I was doing, so I was just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. But I know that's
cool.
where you can get big returns. You can also get big losses, but that's why you have your levels out.
So I have switched to options in 2022, and that was my fear, was big losses.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to make a stupid mistake, and it's going to wipe out my account. I was so scared.
Yeah.
But I could not day trade pennies anymore. It just, it's similar to leaving Atlas, of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm insane to continue doing this. Mm-hmm. So switched to options, and I was actually, I don't know if you listened to the singles and doubles episode that we just released, but I was talking to him about switching to options and how I was like, well, I'm doing it now. And he was like, yeah, you got the jersey on, you're in the game. And I think that's so important for traders to know. Is if you want to do this for a lifetime, it's very unlikely that the thing you start out doing will be your thing forever, especially with the market changing and evolving and different things working. Like, I think the trick to longevity in this game is being nimble and being able to adapt, like Booch.
Yeah, absolutely. Having several strategies is how you tend to last.
For sure. And I also think that this, having a lot of your portfolio in blue chip stocks is really where it's at. Yeah.
I mean, even now, like with the market doing what it's doing, they're still above water for the most part, so.
Yep.
You can't really complain with
Are
that.
you buying the dip on any of them?
Not right now. Right now, I'm just selling when they go up on their ERs. I think we still have some more downside to see with the market. I don't think we're going to get like a crash. I don't think we're going to see 400 anytime soon. But maybe we go back to 420s, 425. And that's where I might consider buying the dip. In my large account, I do a lot of dollar cost averaging. So every week, I throw some money in there and buy it, whatever it's at. And then once we get like a big pop or SPY goes nuts, that's when I'll sell some. So it's a lot of just weekly averaging into it, and then selling on pops, buying back in on the dips.
One thing I'd love to talk to you about is what has the last 8 months done to you mentally as far as just trying to trade?
So the biggest thing that I feel like I've taken during my time at MTA especially, I talk to Broda and Callum and Booch about this pretty much every week, is that my main account is my day trading account, similar to you, in terms of what I'm trading. And that's my account that performs the worst. And the ones that, I have a TV account. I'm not a big fan of TOS because I trade mostly on my phone. So I have a Webull cash account. That's my day trade account. My Webull margin account is my swing account. And then my TOS is kind of like my YOLO account where I do a little bit of both. My swing account and my YOLO account perform way better than my day trade account. And Broda and Booch are just like, that's because you don't care about those accounts. You're not like emotional when you see them go down. You cut it quickly, and when they go up, you're letting them ride. When you're day trading, you're hawking the stock all day. You're looking at it nonstop. You're seeing your P&L go down, up and down. That's when you insert emotions to it. I think in 2022, I started to cut my losses faster. So that's been the biggest turning point for me, where I'm still red, but I'm not as red as I used to be. My green days are cutting into those red days, so I'd rather be break even than be red, you know what I mean? Because that's kind of progression to go from red to break even to green. So in that sense, I think controlling your emotions is where it's at. I don't really buy into the whole thing where people are like, you have to be emotionless when trading, because you can't be emotionless when trading. You have to control your emotions, which is different. Being able to understand and give yourself, rather planning your exits and entries is how you're going to be successful. Because if you don't have a plan when you enter the trade, you're just buying in no man's land, you're panic selling, you're buying tops, selling bottoms, and that's where you get in trouble. So that's, I think, the biggest thing any trade needs to start learning. I have a lot of friends who trade on the side. They were also in like Atlas and buy sell shorts room and stuff like that. And they kind of buy his calls and then ask me why it's going down. I'm like, learn to read a chart, guys. Like, if you can't read a chart, please stop playing small caps. They're still holding CIDM, CIDM. It was a 60-cent stock when we bought it. It went to $2.35 in the summer. They didn't sell it. Now it's at like 75 cents. I'm like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're expecting to go to $10. It's not going anywhere.
I've been on a kick of talking to people who are bag holding pennies. Yeah. This is such a problem in the market right now. Huge problem.
And I mean, no disrespect to anybody and all the foolers and stuff who are on their tickers who are saying, hey, this is going to go to $5, $10. When it just goes down and down from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, why is anybody still holding that? What sense does it make to hold something down 40, 50%? Just like singles and doubles said last time. I just can't understand why you would do that. You might as well just light your money on fire and call it a day.
It's such a problem. Especially with COVID traders.
Yeah. I feel like they got spoiled in the 2020 market.
Yeah. We're never going back to that, or maybe we will, but not in the near future. Yeah. Guys, we're not going back. So, for all you know, if you're down 60%, next month you could be down 85, 90%.
Exactly. It could always go lower.
It can always go lower. It's like starting to bother me like emotionally that so many people are suffering from this bag holding thing. Now I have so many conversations. I was having a conversation about, I close everything out at the end of the day. I don't swing. I don't hold my options overnight. I don't trust the market. I just accept my losses at the end of every day, or wins or whatever. And I was talking to singles and doubles. I'm talking to you about this right now. And I said in that episode, and if you did not hear me, guys, hear me now, that risk management is the most important thing that you can do while if you don't know how to read a chart, that's fine. If you don't know fundamentals, that's fine. All of those things you can learn But if you lose your initial capital, I mean, that's the cardinal sin. And I'm talking to myself as much as anyone who's listening, because, I mean, even this week I held something a little too long. But Callum preaches, and I do this with my options trade, he preaches taking profits early and moving your stop up. And if you guys are not in MTA, if you're not in Voice, if you haven't learned that from Callum, it is essential to take, in this market, take a little money off the table and then keep moving that stop up. Because if you just let things run, if something is down 50%, you have a massive move to the upside that you need to catch. Like, the chances of that happening are so low that you'll hold something down that long and it'll rebound. So anyway, I'm on a soapbox about this. You guys who listen to the podcast know how I feel about it. Boba, I didn't mean to just insert myself here, but I do care about you guys, and I just want you to be aware. Anyway, the soapbox over.
Yeah, no, risk management is definitely the most important thing you need to know when you're trading. If you don't have that, once your initial capital is out, if you're not preserving your capital, you're out of the game. And that's, I think, the most important thing is to preserve your capital first. The gains will come later. Because if you have no money to trade with, you're left with nothing, right?
So are you in a group chat with Callum?
No, just me and him. Sometimes, we have
just you guys?
Yeah, we have a group chat with Broda and Booch as well. So I rant to them every week in there. I think it helps with me being accountable. So
for sure. Oh, for sure. I have a Discord with AC Texas Hammer, and we made a pact at the beginning of starting the Discord that the only way that you could, it's just the two of us in the Discord, but the only way that you got to remain in the Discord is if you posted your P&L every day and were like real honest about what was happening.
That's good.
And it has been hard, but also helpful. And before, I would have a red day and just be like, oh, just forget that didn't happen. I was honest with myself about it. So being accountable, and, Callum is big on accountability. He does that to me too. He's like, how'd we do? Like, tell me the truth. And it's helpful to have an accountability partner.
Yeah, for sure. I think if anyone's struggling at this point, early in their career or late in their career too, if you're struggling, having someone who you can just kind of go to, vent to, who can hold you accountable, keep you honest with your trading. I think that's a huge game changer, I think. I started that with Booch.
For sure.
Me and Booch kind of go back and forth. Just kind of, whenever we have shitty days, we'll just be like, hey, I made a really bad trade here, so we'll just go over the chart. So, why did you take the trade here? What you could have done better, things like that. So, yeah, I think it's a really good idea to do.
I'm in a group chat with Booch and Tyson.
Ooh, how are those guys?
Just only about options, but yeah, it's a good chat. It's a good chat.
I bet. You guys are in Shark's room? So
who would you say, we're in Shark's room, and the name of the chat, I was just trying to think of it, what it is. It's, I know. It's MTA Tank Gang. So
nice. I like that.
We're in MTA. We're in the Shark Tank. We're hanging out. Yeah.
Awesome.
So who would you credit as the person who has changed your trading the most in a good way? Like your number one mentor?
Number one mentor, definitely Broda. And just collectively, Callum, Broda, definitely and Booch. Just those three guys kind of took me to a different level. Not just accountability, but just like being supportive, any questions, anything I need to vent about, when I get emotional during trading, they're always just kind of there no matter what time of day it is. Especially Callum. Callum is just a stand-up guy, outstanding person. He's just kind of there for everybody in the Discord 24/7 as much as he can be. And he burns himself out for everybody. And it's just such a selfless thing he does.
Yeah.
But I feel like he also gives you like personal attention. He gives every person one-on-one time, and I think that's been, especially recently, now that I'm day trading a little bit more since the swing market is kind of slow. I've been going to him a lot, and he's helped with like watch lists, helped with the strategy, things like that. So those three guys all together are just amazing people.
So thankful to Brad, always.
Yeah.
Always thankful to Brad for starting MTA, and those relationships changed my life, for real.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think when you think about it, what Brad and RCB have done with their Discords, Real Ones is kind of just like MTA, I feel like, where they focus a lot on education. There's no like trading floor where they're making call outs. Yeah, people still like take the trades and follow the trades of like, the world members. But everyone has the mutual understanding where, I'm hitting the buy and sell button, not you. I need to make sure I know what I see on the chart, what I'm looking at, and not just find your alert or your call out, whatever. I think that's where we're going to start changing people into followers to trading on their own and taking trades for themselves,
For sure.
which is going to be great.
What advice would you give to a brand new trader?
I think a brand new trader needs to start small. There's no use putting, I would say over like $1,000, over $500 even into an account if you don't know how to trade yet. That's probably the biggest thing, besides things that I've learned from Boda, is playing small until you get consistent. And I learned from Gixer. He was like, stop playing with size, go down to $100, and just day trade with $100 until you learn what you're doing. Buy one share, 5 shares, and use that as like your position size. You buy 5 shares, start scaling out 20%, 40% of that. You're not going to make a whole lot of money. That's fine because you're focusing on the process. I feel like too many people are just throwing 25K into account to get around PDT, and then they end up losing 25K, and then you refund it again. There's no point in doing that. So start small, go slow. This isn't a race. You're not going to go from 1,000 to 100K in a year. As much as people on FinCrit might tell you, you're not making that kind of money. This is something that will take several years to do. I think a lot of people who come on your show who are successful traders now, it's taken them like 5 to 10 years to be successful. You hear Mitch pick singles and doubles. Everyone else, it's taken a long time to be consistent, be profitable, because the market's always changing, things are always changing. You need to find a strategy to be successful, and recognize that you're going to lose when you start. You are not going to win. Nobody is green every day as much as someone might tell you on Twitter. And that's just the reality of the situation. So start small, know what you don't know, and read Anna Culling's book, Volume Price Analysis. That's pretty much the only thing you really need. And just keep it simple. I think I started off with a lot of indicators. I was using all the EMAs. I tried Fibs for a while, RSI, MACD, what oscillators, Bollinger Bands, whatever you want. Trend lines and volume bars are all you need. You can throw the EMAs on there when you're momentum trading. But big thing is just keep it simple, start small. And that's what I would tell myself if I started this a year ago.
Question. So you're like a podcast fan.
Yeah, I love your podcast.
Do you listen to it a lot?
I listen to it every time an episode comes out. What do you mean? Do people not do that?
Oh, wow. I don't know anyone other than Booch that does that.
Oh, yeah, no, me and Booch love the podcast. I've listened to every episode.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me ask you a podcast question.
Oh, no.
No, not like a quiz.
Okay.
Do you... I'm like, can't believe that I'm talking to someone that knows the podcast as well. Usually we have people on there like, yeah, I listened to an episode. Is there a moment in the podcast that you remember sort of above the others is like that would be a key takeaway for me? And maybe I'm elevating myself here.
I don't think there's any one specific thing, but I think the quality of the guests that you have on the show and the conversation that you have with them kind of focusing on, everyone's stories. They're different, but they're also a lot similar. I think myself included, just as like a COVID trader, because I really did start trading during COVID. Um, we all get caught up with the hype of, oh, everyone's a millionaire, and they did it quickly. But that's not the case, like I've said. Um, so I think the fact that you get into everyone's backstories and their strategies, I think that's huge, because that helps people to implement those kinds of things into their own trading. If you see, oh, hey, this person's doing that and they made them successful, let me see if I can take anything from what they're doing. I think some other podcasts out there are maybe a little more advanced or don't really focus on the trading aspect too much. But I think what you do here is really educating newer traders who have a little bit of experience. You're not really targeting brand new traders. You're not really targeting advanced traders. You're kind of targeting just everybody who is into trading, and everybody who is interested in helping elevate their trading. Because that's kind of what we're all here for. Like, we know how to trade a little bit. We can make some money. We can lose some money. But how do we make more money than we lose? And I feel like that's something that I've gotten just kind of inspired by from the conversation that you've been having with all these amazing traders already, and even some people who aren't like known to be like FinTwit famous traders. You have a lot of educated people who come onto the show, who just kind of drop other kinds of knowledge bombs about the market, and just kind of macro events in general. You have people who talk about like charting and whatnot. So there's a lot of different angles that you can take from the, let's just listen to the show and becoming a trader just purely based off listening to all these podcasts. Sorry, that was a long answer.
Well, that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. No, I'm happy to know that, especially as the podcast is growing. Like, I feel like we're kind of in our sophomore year of high school in the podcast, and I very much value what people are getting from it. Yeah. So thank you for letting me know. I love the episodes with like I really love Gup's episode so much. I think what you're saying is right, that some of the people who don't have massive followings on FinTwit really drop knowledge that is invaluable.
Yeah, and like Gup isn't like an experienced trader.
We have
but he has learned so much from Broda that even what he says is super valuable, because he's very good at charting. A lot of people aren't good at charting, so taking that kind of knowledge from him is helpful too.
I would love to sort of wrap up by asking you my favorite question, which is, if you were a stock, which stock would you be? You had to see it coming. It's been my favorite question.
I kind of tune out the end of the episodes. If I had to be one, I would probably say, I don't know, probably like Pfizer or Moderna, something like that. Just because those are kind of like my niche stocks, and my niche industry that I focus on. They're kind of stable. They don't really go anywhere. But at the same time, they are still kind of like climbing up, which I feel like is what I'm doing. I kind of go sideways, but then there are those moments where I go up, hit back down a little bit, go back up. So I think that's it.
I love it. Now, is there anything about having that pharmacy education that right this second you feel like is giving you an edge in the market?
Again, not this second, because XBI, the biotech ETF, is just in the dumps right now. But when that gets hot, it helps me know what to look for. It helps me to like read the data reports that come out really quickly, because a lot of people don't really know keywords to look for. They don't know what makes something significant in terms of like numerical data on a report. If a headline comes out says phase 3 data is positive, you need to actually sometimes read it to find out if it's significant or not. Positive itself is not good enough fundamentally for a company. And like I said before, for these small caps, sometimes that headline is good enough, but for mid to large caps, especially for you options traders, like it's really important to know if something is worthwhile or not. So I think that's where I get the edge from.
I would like to ask you for a favor.
Yeah.
I am building my long-term portfolio, and I can add this to the end of the episode if you want to just type me something. But I'm building my long-term portfolio, and I really want to add a few psilocybin biotech companies. Like right now, I have M in Mind Medicine, MNMD, which is not doing well, but I am holding it.
Oh boy.
So maybe I should talk to myself about bag holding, So I would like one or two psilocybin companies. I think that the future is really limitless in that. And then also Alzheimer's. I don't really know what's going on with Alzheimer's right now, but that seems like an area industry for exponential growth. Yeah. Anyway, if you would just DM me your thoughts on a couple of companies, I sure would appreciate it.
Of course. I'll definitely go through that.
Cool. Okay. Those are just my thoughts because those two things have personally affected me, and I do think it's nice to have things in your portfolio that are personal to you. So
Okay, I agree with that.
All right. Well, Boba, thank you so much for coming on this episode. This was such a pleasure. I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And please keep us appraised of your trading journey. I'd love you to come back on and next season or the season after and just be killing it. I want to see your Rolex.
Of course. Yeah, my Rolex. It was great to be on here. I'm happy we got to do this finally. So thank you for everything. Keep killing on the podcast.
Of course. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you. All right. Have a great Sunday. Hi, guys. We are coming to the end of our last bottle wine promo. As a reminder, use the code PENNY and get 10% off your order. If you like wine, this is a no-brainer. The wine is incredible. It's gone through a rigorous process, making sure that it tastes good, it's a good value, it's the lowest price you'll find on the internet. And with code PENNY, you get an additional 10% off your order for one time. So make sure you use that before March 11th.
That's lastbottlewines.com.
Thank you so much to our producer Joel Edwards and Chesley Lowe for the banjo music.
By accessing this podcast, you acknowledge that the Penny Lane podcast makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional or financial advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, the Penny Lane podcast does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. The third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policies of the Penny Lane podcast. The Penny Lane podcast assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast, or the compliance with applicable laws of such materials and or links referenced herein.